All right, good evening. I think it's about time to get started. I have the distinct privilege of starting us off tonight, and I am not who you came to see, but I'm going to introduce myself real quick and welcome you. My name is Ty Rogers, and I'm the president of Lubbock Christian School. We are delighted to have you here. This is really neat for us and an opportunity to have folks on our school, which we love. So welcome. I'm really interested to find out what we're talking about tonight, and this is really healthy and a good place for exchange of ideas. So glad you're here tonight. I will tell you, this is where we have chapel services every day at Lubbock Christian School, and we come in here and our kids lead us primarily, and boy, we have a good time worshiping our Lord and Father and in here. And so, but I will tell you, you're a little bit like the kids in that nobody wants to sit there. So I'm glad we kind of corralled everyone over at least to the side here, but we are so glad to have you here. We always begin with a prayer, and this tonight is no exception, so I'm just going to go ahead and lead us in a prayer. If you would join me, and then we will turn it over to Councilwoman Joy. So let's pray. Father in heaven, we are grateful to be your children, Father. We're grateful to be here. I want to pray a prayer of blessing over this meeting tonight. Father, I pray a prayer of blessing upon the leaders of our community, the first responders that are represented with leadership here tonight, and for the planning that goes on, and for those folks who put their lives on the line. We just pray for them. Keep them safe, help them to have wisdom, Father, in planning, and thank you for the great city of Lubbock, Texas, Father, and all that you are doing in and through this beautiful, wonderful city. And so, Father, we're grateful for tonight and the blessing of being here, and we praise you. We pray these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
I was going to say, thank you, Mr. Rogers. We really do appreciate Lubbock Christian Schools allowing us this facility. It's very nice, and even has technology we can use. This is a first for me, and I guess for Randy, having a joint town hall. Mr. Christian is the council person from District 5, and I am the council person from District 6. And so what we wanted to do tonight, and if you look over here in the corner, we put all the bad kids in the corner. We have lots of resources available to us tonight. I think Randy would be the first one to say, as I would, is we don't know all the answers, but we certainly know where to find those answers. This has been an exciting couple of years because so much is happening with the city of Lubbock. You know, our growth has spurred us on to do things that I think before we'd never thought about doing or we were afraid to do. And so we're doing those things now. Councilman Massengill, he's spying on us from District 4. He's here tonight, and we appreciate him being here. There you go. I understand that Districts 3 and 4 are going to have a joint town hall, and Districts 1 and 2 are going to have a joint town hall, which I think is a great idea. Ms. Patterson-Harris, speaking of District 2, she always holds up two fingers like we don't know where she's from. Yeah, she's here, and we appreciate her being here as well. Just from my perspective, a lot of the projects that we have going are exciting, but I think right now, two things that I think are extremely important. Number one is we have a new Lubbock Fire Rescue Chief, and Shaun Fogerson. Would you stand up? We're excited to have him. It turned out that my oldest son and Chief Fogerson went to high school together, but we didn't know it for a long time. And then our new police chief, Floyd Mitchell. Floyd, will you stand for us? And he has hit the ground running skates and all. A lot has gone on since he got here. And one of the things I would like for Chief Fogerson to do is come up and just do a little brief discussion about some of the things that we have in Lubbock that might help everybody if they knew about them.
Good evening. The main thing I want to discuss is LBK Alert. Has everyone heard of LBK Alert? That is the City of Lubbock's emergency notification system. You can receive alerts on your phone, your cell phone, or on your home phone, or by email. There's 3 really easy ways to sign up. You can text your zip code to 888-777. And primarily, if you use that method, what you're going to get is emergency weather alerts, or if there's some type of activity going on in your neighborhood, like a hazmat release or some type of police action, you'll get alerts that way. Or you can call 311, and they will give you a more in-depth sign up. They'll walk you through it, pretty much do it for you over the phone. You just have to come up with a username and password, but they'll do all the hard stuff for you, and you'll get a wider array of choices of alerts you can receive, like community activities, different things like that. Or if you want to, you can go online yourself and set up your own preferences, and to do that, you go to lbkalert.com. I'll be here after the program, pass out my cards. Anybody that wants to talk about LBK Alert or anything going on with the fire department, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you, Councilman.
Chief Mitchell, we need to hear something from you since you've only been here for 3 months?
3 months yesterday.
Yesterday, and
But I'm not counting.
but they might like to hear a little bit about you and kind of how you feel about community policing.
Shaun and I were talking just before we came in that he was going to handle all of the police questions, and I was going to get to handle all of the fire questions, so he could be up here. So, but no, thank you for inviting me and giving me the time to talk about the Lubbock Police Department. It's an exciting time for the Lubbock Police Department right now. About almost 90 days ago, we did our first groundbreaking in District 2 for the new East Patrol Division Station. We've run into a little groundwork issues there, so we're still working on getting the ground settled to pour our first foundation, but we're also moving forward on some of the other the other subdivision stations. Later, a week from Friday, we're going to do the groundbreaking on the South Patrol Division Station, which is about 141st and Indiana, and then we have our 3rd Patrol Division Station, which is going to be on the north side or on the Northland. And I bring that up to talk about our community policing efforts and what that's going to look like. And what that is going to cause is going to cause a decentralization of our policing, our patrol division forces. Each station will have somewhere between 85 and 100 officers when they're fully staffed, and all those officers are going to be really focused on their geographical locations, whether that's East Patrol, South Patrol, or North Patrol. Those stations will have a patrol division commander, and they will have their own command staff and officers that are assigned to that geographical location. They'll be responding to the calls for service in those locations. They'll be setting up community meetings in those geographical locations. So every community member who lives in that geographical spot will be able to go to that patrol division station to file a report, to get a copy of the report, hopefully to interact with our police officers during community meetings like this, and hopefully at some point in time, all of the council members will have their open houses and I can't remember what we call this right now. Town halls at our patrol division stations, so everyone get the opportunity to see those stations and take a tour of those and see how we're going to be policing in a decentralized format. Looking forward to it. It's a lot of work to do before we get there, but everyone, my command staff, and all of the officers are working hard to get ready for the first station opening. So we're excited about it. And excited for the support from the community that we're getting in regards to building these 3 patrol division stations. We're also going to be building a brand new police headquarters downtown and a new property and evidence and crime lab that's all part of the original package of that $60 million to build all these facilities. So we are getting some new facilities on the police side, and I know the city's also looking at, as we grow, keeping the fire side up to speed to keep their ratings as well.
All of those facilities will be, you'll have the new Citizens Tower will be complete, as Mr. Messingale says, soon. And then across from that, south will be the new parking garage. And then just south of that block will be where the police headquarters is. So, and municipal court, which is also housed over where the police currently occupy the other half, it will be renovated, and it's immediately to the west of Citizens Tower, and it's going to look really good, and they too deserve a better place to function, and for the citizens to come and pay their fines and things like that. So thank you, gentlemen, for that. We have lots of staff here today because they know the answers to the questions. We have some projects going on currently. We're working on the Uniform Development Code. That's something we haven't done in a very, very long time, looked at our codes. We have a committee who's working on impact fees and they reported to us yesterday, as did some of the UDC. Let's see, Mr. Asham, you want to stand up and let me introduce you? He is I say new, Director of Planning. How long have you been here, Brian?
4 months.
4 months, okay. And so he is involved with the Uniform Development Code and is here today to answer any questions if anyone has any about that issue. I think we also have a presentation, do we not, Jessica? Do we?
No, we're going to just talk about what's coming up next week and then have a flyer.
Okay, well, come on up and let's talk about next week. The groundbreaking for that second substation will be February 21st. That's a Friday. What time, Chief? What time? 1:30 p.m. Mm-hmm.
They're running away.
They're arm wrestling over this, I think. They'll be right back. I guess they flipped a coin. I don't know.
I guess I'll talk from here. So what we have coming up in the next week are some open meetings for the public to come. The first meeting is on Monday. It starts at 5:30 p.m. It's a joint Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council meeting. It's really for our consultants to present the first module of the UDC to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. The second meeting we have is on Tuesday. That's going to be at 5 o'clock at City Hall. That one will be in Council Committee Room 103. That one is really the open house. It gives the public the opportunity to come in and speak with our consultants, along with my team, our planning staff, to discuss what's going on with the first module.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Isham? What's the date again?
The first one is Monday, the 17th, and then the second one is February 18th on Tuesday.
And there are flyers available outside so that you'll have a reminder. And we really do. We want your input, don't we?
We do. We want everybody's input. And my contact information is at the bottom of every one of those flyers. So if you come up with questions between now and then, just give me a call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up, and Mike's going to talk to us about some projects that you're going to be seeing around town that are kind of interesting and exciting at the same time. What's your title, Mike?
You want my whole title or my abbreviated title?
Well, just whatever you like.
So yeah, that one. Division Director of Engineering / City Engineer. So City Engineer is pretty much the easiest version of that. So one of the things, we got a bunch of posters up here that we're getting ready to start is a project for building elevated storage tanks around town. And so actually starting Monday, the water tank that's at 50th in Indiana, 50th in Joliet, there by the Market Street across from Monterey High School, is going to be demolished. And so the work will begin on that on Monday. So you've seen some of the traffic control, maybe barricades being set up there. And so that tank is going to be torn down, is going to be replaced with one like this. We call it a composite tank. It's going to actually be 16 feet, approximately 16 feet taller than the existing one, but basically the same footprint. And so these are more modernized. The storage is more, and it allows our pressure plane to function better. Right now, the water throughout town is your pressure is maintained by pumping, and so that's very expensive. And so these tanks will maintain the pressure by gravity. And so there's also some state requirements that we have to have a certain amount of elevated storage throughout town based on the number of connections that we have. And so we're building 5 tanks, and you see the center map there that shows the different locations over town of where they are. And so each of these tanks is going to be 2 million gallons of water contained in it, and it's just going to be in the bowl. So it's a common question that people ask, is there water in the column? The answer is no, there's not water in the column. There's a pipe inside the column that feeds the bowl, that fills the bowl with water. So the 2 million gallons is in the bowl at the top. And so understanding that is important. Construction of those will probably start this summer. We just received bids from the contractors. We've just evaluated those. We have not taken that to council for award yet. But as soon as we do that, get the contract signed, they'll begin construction. We anticipate that probably around early summer that'll start. And we're going to do 2 tanks simultaneously. They're going to be phased behind each other a little bit, so they won't start exactly on time, but one will start and the next one will start. The first one we're doing is 50th in Indiana. The second one we're doing is at Milwaukee and 104th. And so those are the first 2 tanks that are going to be built on the map that you see there. The 2 red stars are the ones that will be going first. Each tank will take about 15 months to construct, and so once you see construction beginning, understanding that that'll take about that long, about a year and a half, a little less than a year and a half to construct those. Once we get all 5 of these tanks built, it's anticipated with just energy savings alone that these tanks will pay for themselves in about 7 years. Each tank will pay for itself in 7 years simply by the savings on energy cost. We've got maintenance on the pumping that we have to do. We have just the electricity costs alone. These are going to pay for themselves, and so it's a great benefit for the city. It's going to allow us to respond to if there's power outages. Your pressure won't go down because this is gravity that's holding that. And so much more stable pressure on the system and not relying on pumping to do that. Trying to think. One of the things that'll be neat on the bowls of the tanks will be lit by LED lights. And so it's kind of a new technology. A lot of you drive around the state, you'll see that they're lit from the ground with floodlights shining up. That's a lot of light pollution. These LED lights will just be simply on the ring of the bowl and light just that. And so if there's any light footprint, it's going to be directly beneath the bowl. It's not going to light up the neighborhood. And we've had the consultants done some shadow studies and showing what it looks like of how that will look in town. So it's going to be neat. You're going to see it's going to change the face of Lubbock because we're going to have 5 of these around town. Right now we've got 3 that aren't working like they need to. And so this will help our pressure plane and stabilizing the pressure throughout town. I think that's about all I've got on that, unless there's any questions concerning these tanks.
I always thought that the reason we had the towers was exactly that it was pressure, and learned that no, it's not. The water's pumped. And so I think this is exciting, and it's exciting that you can pay for something this expensive in 7 years just by savings that we're going to have. If you've been around 50th in Indiana recently, they've already started moving dirt and tearing some things up. So just be patient with us because those 2 will start pretty soon. We've got to approve it first. Okay. All right. Mr. Greene, come on up. This is Stephen Greene. He is the director at the animal shelter, and we have a lot of interest in that. And let you talk to kind of the highlights of what's going on out there.
I'm proud to say that in January was our 20th consecutive month of a 90% or higher save rate. About 4 years ago, we were about 35%. So getting over 90% it gives you no-kill status if you do that for 12 consecutive months, and we've done that 20 months. And actually, the last 5 months, we've been 94% or higher. So made a lot of positive changes. Last year, we adopted out over 4,000 animals, and we've started sending animals to national rescue groups. We have sent animals to 2 locations in New Hampshire. We have sent animals to Michigan, and next week we're sending our first load is going to go to Utah. So we're getting them out of here, and a lot of people wonder why we do that, and the reason is Texas has a lot of population, both human and animal, and a lot of places just don't have a lot of stray dogs. The shelter we send them to up in New Hampshire, when they're fully at capacity, they have about 50 dogs. Currently, we have about 225 in our facility. So it helps us get a lot of the population down. Some of the other big things we've done is with the council, a lot of support, city leaders, we've been able to put in a spay and neuter clinic in our facility, and we only do animals for that's in our population. We're not able to do for the public yet, but we did about 750 animals just last year in our facilities, so that helps the veterinarians. Out in the public, they don't have the overload of animals that we're adopting out because every animal has to be spayed or neutered when we adopt it. So that's one of our crown jewels is our spay and neuter clinic. And I haven't announced it publicly till right now, but I have been looking for a new assistant director, and I have one that's going to start Monday morning. So be fully staffed again, and we're just ready to keep moving forward and making positive changes.
Yeah, my grandkids have a new dog, and I asked where they got it. And they said, well, someone had put 6 puppies in a black plastic bag and thrown them on the side of the road. And so they took one. I said, well, what kind is it? And Luke said, I don't know. Said it kind of looks like a German Shepherd, but we're not sure. So there are better ways to do this is the whole point. There's a better way to do this. So, all right. And Chris, you're back there. Can't see you. You're going to have to come on up. He's with Citibus, and we've had a lot of activity in the Citibus area. Tell us what's going on right now.
Sure. So the big thing we've got going on right now is our it's called a comprehensive operational analysis, which means a transit study looking out 5 to 10 years and seeing what our services need to be that far out. So what we're really looking at is studying what we can do now to better serve the citizens of Lubbock. As you are probably aware, we have services that we've been providing for many years, but they've not changed much. Very, very little has changed. The city's grown drastically in different parts of the city, and that we've not been able to keep up with that. So what we're trying to do is figure out how we can serve the community better with our services. We're not looking to blow our budgets out through the roof. We want to maintain with what we've got, but provide better services to the community. They're looking for different ways to provide those services. So are we looking at express routes from different parts of the city, from the east part of the city to the southwest to move people for jobs and that sort of thing. Looking at opportunities for what they call microtransit nowadays, and it's the concept is kind of like an Uber Lyft style transportation, to where it's a shared ride, but the passenger will simply go through their phone and select where they want to go, and the vehicle come pick them up in 10 to 15 minutes if that's their parameters we put into place. So there's a lot of cities around the country that kind of go into that. It's transitioning from what I would call the traditional public transit model into a more of a mobility model. So we've got that going on. The consultants will be back in town the last week of March, and we're putting our final touches on what that public outreach opportunity is going to be. We've got about 12 open houses and or presentations scheduled for that week right now. We're looking for probably a couple more to add to that list. And so we're trying to get into all parts of the city and in all the different sections, and more importantly to what we've got going on, the sections of the area or the sections of the city that we currently don't serve. Those are the areas we want to go on to have an open house and get input from citizens of those areas to figure out what we can do to better serve them. So we've got that going on. We're hoping to get that nailed down the end of this week, beginning of next week, and then we'll soon be pushing that information out to the public and doing some really big marketing to get everybody when these events are going to take place, where they will be, so that everybody can come out. And much like Brian said, we are interested in everybody's feedback. So the more feedback we can get, the better off our consultants will be in developing the services that we need to provide for the city, and how we can better serve the community going forward into the future, and seeing how we can keep up with the curve that we're up against right now in the growth year. So with that, that's kind of what we've got, the big project we got going on at Citibus. And any questions?
How do they find out about where these meetings will be?
So
Plan.
we're finalizing that plan, and then we'll use the city's Facebook, Twitter. We'll work with those PIOs there and get that information out. All the facilities that we're going to have these, we're going to put flyers out. We'll use our own social media. We're going to do everything we can to push information out. We've got a couple of groups that we're working with that we're going to utilize them to continue to push the information out to the folks that they know. So one of the cool things about this is we developed a study advisory committee when we originally kicked this thing off, and those individuals that are on that committee are kind of stakeholders in the community and in our services. And so some of them represent social service agencies, some of them Brooke here is actually on the committee there, representing the city manager's office. So we've got about 9 or 10 different people on that committee that are in different sectors and different arenas in the city. And so we're utilizing them to really push that information out. So we're going to do everything we can to make everybody aware of it and give everyone an opportunity to come in and provide their feedback on that, because the more we get, the better off we're going to be. So we're going to try to do a very vast push of the information to allow everybody to know when these events are going to take place.
One of the issues we've had is that there's some areas of the city that just do not have access to Citibus to get where they need to go timely. They can get there, but they may have several stops along the way. Makes it difficult for people to work, makes it difficult for teens to have jobs and to work. And so we're hoping that we're going to solve a lot of those issues. Stuart, you've been hiding back there in the corner. Come on up, Stuart. Stuart is head of code enforcement. That's an area that we have a lot of activity, lots of phone calls, lots of emails, and Stuart is in charge of trying to make everybody happy. Come on up.
Hey, y'all. I'm Stuart Walker. I'm Director over Code Enforcement and Environmental Health. It's kind of a slow time of the year for us, getting ready for weed season. Our weed season starts off every March 1st. And mosquitoes. Health Department actually has vector control these days, but they are, in fact, gearing up too. Extended forecasts are calling for wet and cooler over the next 3 months, but that doesn't, affect the weed growth. We'll start seeing our cool season winter weeds coming up. Some of you may have already seen, the purple flowers coming up in front yards at the hen bit. Mustard will be right after that, so we'll start tackling those, aggressively as soon as they start getting to be in violation. We did a neighborhood deployment this morning. Neighborhood deployments, we do those once a month. I take all my inspectors out. Solid waste helps us. They bring out a roll-off for citizens to bring bulky items and to dispose of. We did the Windmill neighborhood. Don't have the numbers that the violations that we found, but it was pretty significant. And we did fill up one roll-off, a 40 cubic yard roll-off with debris and things that we helped pick up in the neighborhood along with solid waste. Environmental health, your health inspectors, they're continually doing, health inspections on our restaurants, daycares, swimming pools, things like that. And so it's just a continuous daily activity.
Do we have new code officers?
We do have one new code officer this budget season. They're primarily going to be tasked with inspections in CD eligible areas. Got a meeting on Monday to finalize that job description and finalize that job.
What are CD eligible?
Community development and block grant eligible areas. So on top of the inspections, I think they're going to be involved in promoting some of the programs that are available through our community development department, weatherization, emergency repairs to homes, and things of that nature.
Questions? Anyone?
I'll be around after.
Yeah, there you go. Brooke Witcher is one of our assistant city managers, along with Jessica, and I always mispronounce her last name. But they are assistant city managers, and they're bosses to some of these people. So if they're looking nervous, that could be something to do with that. Have I missed anybody? I was going to wait on the health department until Mr. Christian comes up, because he's worked closely with them on a matter that's extremely dear to him. I'm going, Ronnie, your Parks and Recreation, everything's going great, right? There's snow on the ground, everything's freezing. Becky Garza's in the back. She is the city secretary, if you don't know Becky. And we have, just look like Mitch Satterwhite sitting back there from the city attorney's office. He kind of has to be here. So does Becky. And Helica Gonzalez is one of our council people who helped us get where we need to go. And of course, everybody knows Bob Goodwin. There you go. There you go. Just briefly before I turn this over to Mr. Christian, I've been working with the homelessness issue here, as many of you know. And someone asked me the other day, so we had a committee, what are you going to do now? Is it one of those committees that you have and then nothing ever happens? No, that's not what's going to happen. There will be an advisory committee appointed, and they will take it from there to see what types of services that we need and what we may be able to do. We continue to work with homeless people. We have Grace Campus, we have Open Door, we have Family Promise. The churches have been extremely generous in terms of feeding and monetary donations. Lubbock is a giving community. We really are. And everybody has a feeling for homeless individuals. But on the other side of that, we also have a feeling for people's property rights. And so we have to balance those. Chief Mitchell probably gets quite a few calls involving someone's homeless who goes someplace they're not supposed to be. And we're going to continue to enforce those violations because we have to. All right, Mr. Christian, I want you to introduce the people from the health department and talk about your favorite subject.
Before I get to that, I want a couple of things that I think that we should bring to the attention of folks that have been happening recently. I brought this booklet, if you will, large booklet. We had Overland Partners make a presentation about the downtown redevelopment. And if you'll put that back on the back, I just wanted to show it that y'all could see what some of the materials that they brought. It was a great, very comprehensive report that they've been working on for quite a while. Some very good suggestions on what we should do downtown as we move forward. Another committee or a subcommittee, I should say, on streets. Mr. Chavez, Mr. Griffith, and I myself are on a committee that we've been driving the streets of Lubbock, Texas, both far and wide, north, south, east, and west, and taking an inventory of those streets that have never been paved, some that are in major disrepair, also those streets that because of growth need to be widened and lengthened. And then we've also talked a while about brick streets downtown. So we'll be putting together a recommendation based upon our work, and we've had 4 meetings. But I tell you what, it was really fascinating and very enlightening when we did get in a city vehicle and drove literally all over town and drove in some streets that homes are on, and homes have been on those streets for many, many years that have never had much repair work at all, much less certainly not any asphalt or anything like that. And I'm really proud of, since I've been a councilman, we put Sheila, how much? 800,000 is it about for the last couple of years? Yeah, but I mean, well, it's been annually. I think that's kind of what we've spent more than the 800, but it's been over a couple of years that we added that to the budget, and I'm very proud that money was earmarked for streets in East Lubbock that have literally never had any sort of surfacing, whether it's fixing them up or paving them, one of the two. So that was a great experience. And Juan took us to a little hole-in-the-wall Mexican food place too that was over. It was pretty doggone good also.
Well, we started off the morning and it was really impactful. We had a whole bunch of people telling their stories, TED Talk style, of their experiences with addiction and recovery. So some of them were their personal stories, some of them were their family stories, and they were from all different backgrounds, all walks of life. And then we had a keynote speaker during lunch who talked about sort of the history of treatment services in our community. And then during the afternoon, we had breakout sessions. Some were more scientific, some were more personal, experiential. And then we concluded the day with a soda pop reception. That was a lot of fun and had really great food, thanks to Angelica, I believe. That was so.
The next lady told me about the poster, the signs that we put up. I thought that was a really clever idea that y'all had.
This is Sadie, and she's new, so I'm not going to make her talk.
Okay. Because that was y'all's idea.
Yes, so we also had a wall that we erected that was our wall of hope, and we wanted people to tell their stories throughout the day of their experience, their strength, and their hope, which are themes that are really common in the recovery community. And so throughout the day, people posted sticky notes about things that they were reflecting on and what they learned and what really impacted them. And so we still have that in our office, and our hope is to do that again this year, and to sort of build on that and to really grow this event, because it was such a good, powerful event.
In October.
And the date for this year is October 7th.
Good. Thank you very much. But it was so, we were overwhelmed with the number of people that attended. We had booths set up by vendors, lack of a better term, vendors that offer services for addiction and recovery. And there was probably 15 or 20 or more. We had right at 300 people that attended, and we had such good community support that I had a great lunch too, actually. It was free. Anybody could come that they wanted to, and what I thought was great, we had kind of a 20-minute break between the morning session and our lunch speaker, and a young lady came up to me, and I had several people come up to me and were so appreciative, and they couldn't believe that a city was actually putting this on. It's very uncommon after us talking to some people, but one young lady came up to me, and she literally, I can't remember what Midwestern state she was from, but she said one day I just had enough, and I was and she was had just started her recovery, and she had almost like she just threw a dart at the wall something, and she decided she's going to come and start anew in Lubbock, Texas. She packed up her bags, came down here, got into the recovery community, has a job, so she's now a good tax-paying citizen. We like those a lot. But it was just it was so overwhelming, the people that were there that were so appreciative that the City of Lubbock stepped up and did this, and it was such a success. We knew automatically that we were going to do it again this year, and President Skuvenek was there that morning. He was overwhelmed too. As a matter of fact, myself and the mayor are meeting, I believe it's Tuesday, because he wants to get Texas Tech involved more in it. And for some of those people that you don't know, Texas Tech has one of the best collegiate recovery programs in my opinion, in the world, anywhere, nationally recognized. It's a special program that people can apply to. They have to be clean and sober for a year. They can get scholarship money. It's about 125 students that are officially in that program. That particular group has the highest graduation rate of any group on campus. They also have more people that go on to graduate school in that group as well. So we're going to tie those people in and make Lubbock, Texas, and the world know a lot more about that program, because exceptional. It's so exceptional that they get calls from other universities, and they send people from Texas Tech to universities all over the country to replicate that program. So I told them, if we're gonna be proud ourselves on calling ourselves the capital of West Texas, we're going to be the epicenter for addiction and recovery, especially when it comes to collegiate recovery programs, because we already have that feather in their cap, and we need to toot our own horn a lot louder about that. Other than that, the only thing that I've been working on, obviously, is McAllister Park. Give you a little update that we're a couple of months behind schedule on the dog park that we're going to put in the northeast corner of the park, and it's going to be very, very nice. Anytime I talk to anybody about the dog park, they're excited, because we have 2 dog parks right now that are very well used. And the interesting thing about it, they're all to the east side of University. So this will be the first one on I would say, on the west and southwest part of the city that it will be very, very well used. The other thing that we were looking at, that I've been studying because I've been so involved in this park project, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but about every 10 years we look at revising or redoing a master plan for all of our park systems. So at the end of this year, it makes sense for us to start talking about doing that in 21, as looking at doing a revised version, and maybe we start from ground up, because there's been so many changes in our parks. But I've got to take my hat off to the Parks and Recs folks too, because I've lived here I've been along here a long time, but I can remember several years ago that our parks were in somewhat disrepair. They weren't groomed the way I feel they should be, but the Parks and Recs folks has really stepped up. And when you drive around and you see our city parks, they're already very, very well maintained, and to make that happen it's a military operation. So that's about all I have. I just wanted to make sure I remembered about the Overland Park folks when they came to town, because that was an incredible presentation. And as I said, that booklet's over there for y'all to take a look at after we finish the formal part of this town hall. And thank you all for being here.
Several of us have served on committees having to do with mental health, and I think everyone in here should know that we don't have sufficient mental health services for our citizens. And so you're going to see a lot more in that area, and appreciate what Randy put together to kind of jumpstart that drive. Ronnie, I call those my soccer fields. You know that. When I first came on council back in 2012, I wasn't happy, and neither was anybody else, with the condition of the soccer fields at the Burl Huffman complex. So we rocked along. We did what we could with the budget we had, tried to make some improvements. We had prairie dogs, they just came up and kept coming up. But we did better with very limited resources. The staff out there, they did the best they could. We tried aerating the soil. We had the irrigation system was very, very old, and when it came on, it made little circles. You looked like they were aliens or something who had landed. And so we kept talking about it, and I would talk about it at council quite often. And Market Lubbock stepped up and is spending about $7 million, and it will be ready this year. And they have completely redone the irrigation. They've gotten rid of the prairie dogs. They are putting in 4 synthetic turf fields for tournament play. And it's going to be a first-class facility that will bring teams back here and tournaments back here. When my kids were playing, we had tournaments here. We had them in Memorial Day and Labor Day, but our fields got so poor, nobody wanted to come here and step in a hole or play on a field that wasn't maintained. So look forward to that, and I look forward to it because it's going to benefit our kids. And that has lots of good things to happen from it, but it's also going to help our city. Matt Rose, I didn't forget you. I kept you to last. The city is still working on the transition to ERCOT. Matt, you want to come up and kind of tell us where we are? I know there's some interest in that subject. I see George Carpenter back there. George, how are you? Good. And his sweet wife, Linda. Margaret Christian is back there, Randy's wife. Didn't want to miss anybody. There she is. Good. All right, Matt, you're on.
Well, as was mentioned, we have a lot of projects going on right now, but the biggest and the most important project is getting us connected to the Texas State Grid, to ERCOT, by July of 2021. We started this project in September of 2015, and it was about a 2.5-year process in order for the Public Utility Commission to grant us access into the Texas State Grid. The exciting thing is that Lubbock is the first major city to be allowed to join the Texas grid since the early 90s, really since the whole market was kind of reformed. And so it was a big undertaking just to get us to the point where they would allow us to join. But once that happened, we then had to hit the ground running because we have to build about 140 miles of transmission lines north, east, and south of us to hook up to the state grid. As part of that process, you have to go before the Public Utility Commission and go through an application process for the different segments of your line. And so we have 4 segments that we need to get approved. Our Director, David McCullough, set out an ambitious schedule that if we hit our marks, we'd get there on time. And as of right now, we're on time. Of those 4 segments, they've approved 3 of them. The 4th one is coming up here at the end of the month for approval. Throughout this process, Councilmember Joy, Massengale, and Mayor Pope have gone down to Austin with us to make sure that we have a presence there so that the commissioners know that if they make any decisions that sets us back, that they're not doing it, necessarily on their own. But if they look out in the audience, they have to see the council members there and explain to them why, not approving these lines is going to set us back. But up to this point, they've approved them on time. And if they approve this one coming up this month, then we get to move to the next process, which is actually constructing these lines. And so, like I said, this is a big project. This is in order for us to secure, not just the next 10 years, but the next 50, 60 years of where we're going to get our power from. So we're very excited about how this has progressed. And like I say, if they approve it in February, we'll be moving forward. Along with this, we've had to improve our internal system, not just to hook up to the ERCOT grid, but to make sure that we can provide reliable power for our own citizens. So when you look around town, you see a lot of construction line projects that are going on. We rebuilt the line on 82nd Street. Going from Utica down to Indiana. We just completed a phase that went over the Marcia Sharp Highway. So we're doing a lot of things within the city to build up our system to make sure that we have reliable power. But all of it is to make sure that in July of 2021, we're ready to flip the switch and join the state market. And as I've gone down to Austin a lot the last couple of years and talked to folks about what we're doing here in Lubbock, they're very excited for Lubbock to join. One of the nice things is that when you look around us, you see a lot of this wind energy that's gone up over the last 10 years. As I've told folks a lot, that wind energy, those are electrons that are running right past us that we don't get to access. So when we join the grid, we might not necessarily be contracted to buy those electrons, but those will be the ones that will be going through our system. So not only will that increase our reliability, but it also supports all these other cities and communities around us where these wind projects have really helped to bolster a lot of projects that they have going on. So it's a really cool regional project, and like I say, we're on time. There's a lot of other projects that we have underway, and I can go through all of them, but I'd probably use up the remainder of the hour and a half. So I'm getting the buzzer, so I'll end there, but I'll be here to answer any questions about any of the stuff we have going on. And I think most of the folks that are here know how to get a hold of me, so always feel free to call me, except for you.
Once again, staff will be here. If you have individual questions, take advantage of that. Mr. Rogers, thank you so much. And I was going to suggest that there are a lot of the staff that can come talk to your kids, your students. You know, I went out to Centennial one time, and the kids want to know, what does a mayor do? What does a city council person do? And I think we got to start early with our kids on government. They need to know those things. So anytime you would like any of these people to come, just give us a call and we'll make sure that happens. And thank you again for your courtesy and your hospitality.